Hello and welcome to the podcast by Business Aviation Collective, sponsored by LD Aviation. Today we have Jordan Scales with us. Jordan is an aircraft manager here at Clay Lacy, and he's also the Vice Chair of the YoPro Council. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Lindsay. How's it going today?
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So many good things about you, and I see lots of good publicity online and really cool things that you're promoting in the industry these days.
Well, thank you.
So I want to hear all about the YoPro Council as well as an internship that you had at one of my favorite companies. But first, I want to go through and I want to hear, how did you even get into aviation?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And anyone that knows me has heard this story before, but like a lot of us, I fell into aviation. Growing up, I wanted to be a roller coaster engineer. Everyone had the same reaction. And I just turned 30, and 30 years of living on this earth, I have not met a single roller coaster engineer. So I'm not even fully sure if that job title exists, but growing up, that's what I wanted to do. I grew up going to Six Flags all the time. My dad lived really close to one growing up, and I spent all my summers there. I wasn't at the theme park itself. I was at home on my computer playing Roller Coaster Tycoon, just making up all kind of disastrous roller coasters. But that
is this Six Flags right there by the Fulton County Airport?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I spent a lot of time there too. My kids grew up there as well at that park. So excellent.
Yes, ma'am. So was obsessed with roller coasters. However, when it came time for looking at colleges, I had to have a bit of a heart-to-heart with myself and, told myself, hey, Jordan, as much as you love design and you love roller coasters, you're not that good at math. So maybe you shouldn't sign up for 5 years of intensive mechanical engineering. So I was in limbo for a little bit, wasn't really sure what I was going to do. Mind you, I'm 16 years old, trying to plan out the whole rest of my life. But was on a flight from Orlando to Atlanta, and school started in a month. In your junior year of high school, at least at my school, was when you could start taking college trips, and they were excused absences. And so mom was really on me, but all right, introduction role, what are you going to do? And school's in a month, and I had no clue what I wanted to major in, what schools I was interested in. But I'm on this flight back home, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, roller coaster engineering, it's not going to work out. What is the closest thing to a roller coaster that you can think of? And as I'm sitting, on this commercial flight, looking around, I'm like, well, being on a plane, you get to experience G-forces, there's the speed of takeoff. And then I started to think more about the career of being a pilot. And it's like, okay, well, you get to travel the world, you get pretty flexible work schedule comparative to your standard 9 to 5. And so I was like, you know what, let's become a pilot. No one in my family is in aviation from a civilian or military standpoint. So I really didn't have a whole lot of prior knowledge to base this decision off of. But with a lot of things in my life, once I get an idea in my head, I just kind of chase it down. And so I landed and told mom, hey, I want to be a pilot. And she's kind of threw her hands up I don't know how to help you. You wanted to be an engineer. I know all the good engineering schools, but I don't know how to help you become a pilot. Thankfully enough, we lived in the Atlanta area. Delta was just right down the road. And so she put me in a Delta summer camp the next week. So I was able to learn about aviation careers. And then she put me into an OBAP camp the week after that. And I took my first discovery flight actually through their ACE program. And after I took my first discovery flight, I was hooked and knew I was going to be a pilot, at least at that moment. Started looking at aviation schools and ended up landing on Auburn University in Alabama. Always flew for my freshman year, but ended up pivoting from becoming a professional pilot into getting a degree in aviation management.
Okay, excellent. I want to back up just a little bit. So you did an OBAP discovery flight.
Yes,
what does that stand for? What?
Yes, ma'am. OBAP. It is the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So those of you who want to see more about that, make sure to put the link onto that. So they allow you to do a discovery flight. They kind of show you what it would be like to be a part of that.
Yeah, essentially, they brought in pilots. Majority of those were commercial pilots, but brought in a bunch of pilots and different aviation professionals for us to kind of learn what a day in the life is like. And after learning, what being a pilot was actually like, I was hooked in. And then, of course, taking my first discovery flight at a 172, and once you see the world from that perspective, it really kind of changes kind of your trajectory in life.
Yeah, that's pretty eye-opening. Okay, so you did that, and then you went over to Auburn. Now, Auburn is a pretty well-known school, right, for aviation?
Yes, ma'am. It's actually the Auburn has the longest running aviation program of any public institution. And the program has grown tremendously over the years. When I graduated, there were only about 125 kids in the program throughout all 4 years. And I think this coming year, they're going to have over 700 students. So the program has just exploded. They have over 30, I know for a fact they have over 30 aircraft within their training fleet. All of their 172s or G1000 glass cockpits, air conditioned. And then they have their twin and multi aircraft as well. They have, we actually have a college of aviation at the airport. So the same way, universities will have a college of law or agriculture, there's a full physical building at the airport that's fully dedicated to aviation studies. And there's a simulator that's in there. There's state-of-the-art classrooms. There's a whole scheduling and dispatch center for the students. And so it's really impressive. And so it's a program that I'm very proud to have seen grow over the years. And I think the report was released about a month ago. It's now the #2 program in the country behind NBAA. And I believe we boast, and don't quote me on this one specifically, but I think we may have the most female pilots in our program of any aviation, university aviation program as well. So that's something to be proud of as well.
Yeah, it is. That's really great. Oh, I didn't know that much about Auburn.
It's a little hidden gem. It's the program relatively has been small compared to some of the more well-known programs that are out there, but it has grown very quickly over the past 2 years.
Good. We need more people in aviation for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so you flew the first year, and then you switched over to aviation management.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm curious, so were they able to incorporate any of the business aviation side of it? Or was it mostly commercial side?
It was mostly commercial, and I don't think Auburn. Auburn has grown into highlighting business aviation more, and now they do offer courses in business aviation. At that time, it was still a very commercially focused program, but Auburn's not alone there. I found through my involvement with different university programs that a lot of university aviation programs are geared towards the commercial track. And what I've realized is that there's more content out there around commercial airport operations and just the inner workings of commercial industries. And so, we work in a niche industry and not very much is documented. And so because of that, it's a bit hard to build curriculum off of it. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg kind of situation there. But while I was through the program, it was pretty much commercially driven. I kind of had to go off the beaten path to find my first internship at Cox Enterprises, which you're familiar with. And then the following summer, I would find myself in Wichita at Textron Aviation.
That's great. So how did you even think to do the internships? Is that something that was connected with the school, or you went out and found those on your own?
More of the latter. My mom always emphasized internships. And so as I was just scouring, the internet, trying to find internships, came across the one at Cox Enterprises. And I was their first non-A&P intern. The program historically was centered around the mechanical side of things, but they were short on applicants that summer. And I had a strong application. And so they said, hey, we'll try this out. We don't really know what we're doing here, but we'll put you through the program and see what happens. And so I ended up spending half of my day on the hangar floor, doing gear lubes and hanging out with all the A&Ps. And then I would spend the other half of my day upstairs shadowing dispatch and flight operations. And so I would have to keep I'd come to work with 2 shirts. I'd have a shirt that I was fine getting grease on, and then I'd keep a work polo in my locker, and I'd go run and change when I went upstairs.
A great experience. probably know, I spent 10 years at Cox, and I would have left right before you came in. So I missed a year, short, just by a short bit. But if I'm not mistaken, Steve came and his group initiated the internship program at Cox.
That's correct.
Got it.
That's correct. So yeah, Steve King and his team pretty much led that directive. I reported to Steve directly, and Steve continued to be a champion of professionals even after I left. If he knew just how many careers that he helped get off the ground, no pun intended, I think he'd be very taken back.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's such a great program. I love that he was doing that and stuff. And what a cool opportunity to go upstairs too, because it's a really different type of job.
It is.
Job versus the scheduling and dispatch job.
It is, and it's stuff that you don't see in the classroom. And so, seeing real time, flights being dispatched, and just watching them track the flights and do all of the documentation necessary for international travel, like that's stuff that you just don't get in a textbook. And so, seeing it firsthand really brings the entire experience into reality. And you get to see, starting from watching the aircraft get worked on to then being released for flight, and then actually, now I'm tracking this plane through the sky that we just worked on yesterday. So it was really cool.
That is great. And I know upstairs, they run a pretty great program upstairs. Dave Small's been kind of the head of that dispatch department for many, many years. And I think he's pretty much been on kind of the cutting edge of that. I mean, when we were there, we were doing flight plans. We actually were filing all of the flight plans, domestic flight plans, which is not common for a Part 91 flight department. And I've always loved that. I missed that technique aside. So anyway, I always thought he did such a great job of running that.
Yeah, he's been a great leader for them.
Well, cool. Okay, so after Cox, then you mentioned a Textron.
Yes, Ben. That was amazing. That internship was really was life changing to be 100% honest. So it's been a summer in Wichita. Funny enough, when I was applying for the internship, I was applying to a company called Cessna. And then by the time I showed up in Wichita, it was called Textron Aviation, and I wasn't even sure if I was in the right place. So I came right as the start of the Cessna Beechcraft merger was happening. And so it was interesting from an aviation political standpoint to just watch two major manufacturers go under one roof. So just kind of watching and observing the optics of all that was very interesting. But then that was my first time working for an aviation entity. So I worked for a corporation that had planes, but never, a company that was directly, tied to aviation. And so getting to see the different departments and how everything is intertwined, and seeing the process from square one and to delivery, seeing a client show up for their first time, who's a prospective buyer, and getting to walk the manufacturing floor with them, and all the way to and now I'm shadowing the contracts department. So I'm seeing LOIs, and I'm seeing this idea start to become tangible, and then working with engineering as they spec out a plane, and then finally get to see the delivery of the aircraft. So I'm really getting to see this. I'm getting to see an aircraft start from handshake to aluminum being delivered, and so that entire process was just I was a kid in a candy store the entire summer. But I was out there, I think there was about 150 interns that summer. I think they have over 300 in the program that last summer. And so it's a program that's grown tremendously. But my aviation dream was really built that summer. That summer is when I found out that selling aircraft was even a job. I didn't know that how aircraft were transacted. I was shadowing one of the regional sales directors, and we're sitting over coffee. I'm asking him what his job is. And he goes, "Oh, well, I sell planes." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I know this company sells planes, but what do you do specifically?" He goes, "No, sir, I sell the plane." And it took until that moment where it registered oh yeah, a product has to be sold by somebody, and you are that individual. Prior to that, I thought, it was like a dealership. Somebody walks up and they say, "Hey, I want that plane in red. I'll come back in 6 months." And, I didn't know how personal the experience was. And when I found out that, selling planes was even a job, I felt a bit foolish, because I'm 21 at this point. I've been in school for 3 years, and I had to fly to Wichita, Kansas, to find out that selling planes was a job.
And that's common. There's a lot of jobs in the aviation industry that you just wouldn't even know existed.
100%. But once I was made aware of aircraft sales as a profession, that's all I wanted to do. And it made me so much more focused and dedicated of a student, because I wasn't going to let anything deter me from doing what I said I was going to do. And so almost 6 years to the day of when I found out that selling planes was a profession, I sold my first plane myself. And so, thank you, ma'am. And people ask me all the time why I'm so involved in some of my student advocacy projects or university relations and such. And it's just because of that, because I'm a product of gaining exposure in business aviation through unconventional means. And it should not have been as difficult for me to find my dream job, but it's a process and it happened. And so I try my best to flatten the learning curve for students that have come after me. And so I always try to take any moment that I can to, help create some kind of exposure opportunity for students, because I know how niche and how underrepresented our industry is comparative to other aviation disciplines. But I know all it takes is that one conversation to where your entire life can change.
Yeah, that's very true. So I can see in the background a few the ways that you do that, but maybe talk to us about the Auburn Aviation Day that you help out with and that Auburn conducts.
Absolutely. So I'm still very close to my alma mater's aviation program. And a few years ago, a friend of mine who was flying for the university at the time said, hey, Jordan, both of us work in business app, but there's nothing really going on campus to promote business aviation. And so he went out and got enough people together and said, hey, we're going to have a business aviation day at Auburn. And it started out very modest. We had a static display in which we worked in conjunction with the Georgia Business Aviation Association and the Alabama group, and just some local flight departments. And we just put on a static display and had a couple business jets on the line. The students can go kind of check out. And that single day experience is now turned into about a 2.5 day conference where we bring in industry groups from all over the country. I mean, some of your largest names in the industry, from operators such as Lacey and Wheels Up and Jet Edge and FlexJet. I mean, all of your, at last year's event, every major charter company and management company was represented. Then we have some of the top maintenance and repair stations that are out there. So Westar is president. Stevens Aviation, Stevens Aerospace is president. And then a slew of corporate flight departments that are out there. Procter & Gamble, they have an amazing internship program. They were there to promote that. Cox Enterprises was promoting theirs. And then, it just from local operators such as Southern Company and promoting all the careers within their organization. It's just really awesome to see the industry be so receptive to students and educating them on the fact, because without having that tangible experience, a lot of students just kind of get lost in the whole shuffle of being in college and having to make a career leap. And more times than not, they tend to kind of choose the path of least resistance, which is, hey, let's go to the airlines because I know there's going to be a bunch of jobs at the airlines. And while I am never going to deter anyone from going to the airlines, my goal in life is just to provide context and perspective to other careers that are outside of the commercial airline atmosphere or industry. And so the Auburn Business Aviation Day is an event. We're going on our 5th year now. And every year just kind of improves and gets better and better. Last year's event was really special. We had multiple presentations and workshops on both on topics internal and external, things that are going on in the industry, and then ways that students can better, ways to bridge the gap between the university setting and the industry. And then we always have an amazing static display. I mean, they have over a dozen aircraft every year. 2 years ago, we even had like a couple helicopters that were on static. I mean, it's something I've been really blessed to be a part of. And this year's event is already planned. And I don't have the date in front of me, but I'll make sure that you get to save the date so you can include that. And for any industry professional, it's an open invitation to participate. From a student perspective, at this point, it is just for Auburn students. So I do apologize for students at other universities. Maybe there will come a time and place when we are able to expand it. But it is a really amazing event, and it's one that has gained national attention to where other groups have started to take notice and have tried to have made attempts at replicating their business aviation days. So I know the Arizona Business Aviation Association has a business aviation day of their own, where they take students and I think they're out in Mesa. I believe it's at one of the Textron Aviation facilities or Able facilities that are out there, and the students get to see these aircraft in person. I had the pleasure of working with the Central Florida Business Aviation Association and hosting their past 2 Business Aviation Day events, where it's a lot of the elements of the Auburn Business Aviation Day events, but consolidated into a single day, where we have a speaker series of industry professionals, and we've had the likes of we've had Ed Bolin as our keynote speaker, and for our inaugural show, we had Chris Rochelo, NBAA COO, as one of our speakers this past year. We've had Thunderbird pilots as keynote speakers. Anyone who knows Michelle Curran, Mace, as she likes to go by as her call name. I mean, and we just had a slew of professionals from C-suite professionals that have taken time out of their day to speak to these students. So that's been phenomenal. That's always phenomenal. And then we have a career expo of about, I think every year we've had at least 20 companies that are there to, if they don't have jobs that they're actively hiring for, they're there to educate students on what a career looks like in their organization. And it's a similar kind of company makeup as the Auburn Day events. We have operators, we have FBO, we have people on the MRO side, we have people in UAS. So we're even talking to future technologies. And then there's a static display that occurs while all this is going on as well. And in this past event, we had representation from practically every OEM. And then we had some local companies that decided to bring some metal to the flight line as well. And so those events in particular, I believe, are so important because, once again, it's not until these students get to see these products in person to where they can kind of flip that switch, and it's like, oh wow, I'm in a Challenger 3500. This is way cooler than the ERJ that I was just touring 2 weeks ago. And that's where I've seen these dreams really kind of take shape.
I love that. And I think you answered one of my questions. What I wanted to point out is that you mentioned that every piece of the industry is there. You've got, and just because it's my passion, is that scheduling, dispatch, and operations. It sounds like it's being represented as well. And so many people fall into that type of a job, but they've never seen it done before. So I love that you're saying Auburn has classes on it, and that I didn't even know these 3 aviation days existed. So what a cool thing, Dominic. I'll make sure that I get the links for all of them in the notes below.
Absolutely. I'll help you out with all that.
Awesome. Oh, what a great thing. Just blows my mind what's out there that I just don't necessarily know about. Someday there'll be like one place that all this is posted.
Yeah, and we're getting there day by day.
Great. So we talked about the Auburn Aviation Day. And then, so let's move on to another thing that you do with your time that gives back to the community, and that's you are the Vice Chair of the YoPro Council. Tell me about that. What is the YoPro Council, and what is your role as Vice Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking. So, I share my Vice Chair duties with another amazing individual, but the YoPro Council as a whole, we are the governing body of NBAA's YoPro organization. And YoPro, it's a bit ambiguous. It's more of a professional networking entity, But the YoPro Council provides the strategic direction for YoPro. So we're the ones who coordinate all the social activities that you see, both the in-person and virtual events. So at every NBAA event, whether it's one of the regional events or whether it's schedules and dispatchers or even the big show in Vegas, we always create some kind of opportunity for young professionals to network amongst each other. And usually at the big show, we also try to tie in some kind of philanthropic effort as well to give back to whatever local organization. We also we emphasize the future workforce development of our industry. And so whether that's connecting directly with universities or regional groups and helping them strengthen their communication and messaging to young professionals and students, whether that's hosting events ourselves and inviting, college students and stuff to that. But we're the ones that are really taking action on connecting with that future generation of aviation professionals. So we've doubled in size over the past year, and we have a host of really awesome professionals in there. And once again, every facet of aviation is highlighted in there. We've got some pilots, we've got some people who work in operations, we've got folks at FBO, we have people in sales, we have people in every discipline within business aviation that are represented there. And as a collective, we just try to improve the outlook of business aviation from a young professional perspective.
Well, so if you're somebody listening right now, and maybe you wanted to help out, is there something that we could do?
Absolutely. Well, we invite anyone who's interested to join our mailing list. We have a mailing list that keeps you apprised of all of our happenings. Since I can send that link to you, we also have a LinkedIn page that's very active. We have an Instagram as well, but would highly recommend, joining or following any of those sources that I just mentioned. We also just recently started a new initiative called YoPro Go. And that is for individuals who want to get a bit more involved. And so YoPro Go, we take those individuals and we have regular workshops, virtual workshops. So we've had career coaches that have come in to provide their insight. We've had some motivational speakers that have come in to give us kind of tidbits from their perspective. And that group exists to really kind of ignite those individuals who really want to make a difference. And the intention there is that the individuals within YoPro Go will work amongst their local regional kind of counterparts and get these local groups active and get the regional YoPro chapters started amongst these regional business aviation groups to just once again further grow and develop the young professionals in these different pockets of America.
So if I'm understanding correct, the YoPro group really, like you were saying, trying to get the younger people into aviation, connect those two groups.
Yes, ma'am.
So what if you are an older aviation professional? Is this something that we could help out at all? And then I'm definitely quite a bit older than you are, but it sounds like a really cool opportunity. And I wouldn't want to get in a spot that I shouldn't be in. But is that something that you guys are also looking for, or do you mostly keep it to young
So the council itself is beholden to professionals under the age of 40. However, at any of our social events, whether it's virtual or in person, we actually welcome more senior professionals to join that, because we understand that there has to be some kind of transfer of experience and knowledge from the people that have been in this industry for so long to us. As much as we love our new technologies, it can't teach those experiences that you guys have. And so we actually even started rebranding some of our social events so that it doesn't seem like it's explicitly for the young professional crowd, because we want to garner a larger audience so we can have more of that diffusion of information.
Great. Okay, that's cool. So those of you that are under 40, try and get on the council, be really active. Those of us over 40, go ahead and do the social pieces of it.
Yes, ma'am. And there's also the NBAA mentorship program that as a council we champion. And so regardless of age, you can sign up for the mentorship program, and you can sign up to be a mentor or a mentee, depending on what phase of you are in your career. But for those more experienced professionals who do want to get involved and help change the narrative, those resources exist to help coach and guide and develop the future generation.
That's really cool. So behind the scenes, NBAA is like pairing people together. Somebody who might be in this similar industry as this younger person might want to be in industry.
Yes, ma'am. Just
cool. All right, we'll pop in. I know there's a link for that as well. That's a program I've seen out there. I just haven't participating, but it seems like it's a big thing. Oh, there's one other thing that you guys at the YoPro Council do that is very important and pretty visible, and that's the top 40 under 40.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can highlight on that. So once a year, the YoPro Council meets at the NBAA office in DC. We do our long range planning there. As a group, we meet on Capitol Hill with various different state legislators to champion for our workforce development initiatives, for the future advanced air mobility initiatives, for sustainability. That's an amazing experience in itself. But one of the more visible things that we do is we curate the top 40 under 40 list for NBAA, and it's a very arduous task. This year we had a record-breaking number of submissions. We had over 500 applications that we had to filter down into 40 award recipients. It was an all-day affair. We started at 10 a.m. and did not finish until 6. But we have a very thorough process, a very thorough, unbiased process in which we go about taking 500 names and whittling it down to 40. And it's really awesome just kind of hearing all the amazing things that young professionals are out there doing, from creating new technologies to different philanthropic efforts to, just everything imaginable, rescue missions. There's some really awesome stuff that are that individuals are out there doing. And so being able to highlight these individuals is something that I take a lot of pride in. I understand, as a recipient myself, I understand how impactful it is to kind of have your, I can't even call it 15 minutes of fame, because you are able to own that title for life. And to this day, I get people that message me on LinkedIn to congratulate me for something that happened, 7 months ago. And so 8 months ago. But that's doing the top 40 under 40 voting is something that's pretty cool that we get the chance to determine.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see what your list comes out like this year.
It's a good one. That's a really good one. There's a lot of back and forth for this. We all had people that we were really passionate about, and so, but we were able to put the best product together.
Great. All right. No, I'm definitely looking forward to that. So how would I move on? I know we've talked about your YoPro Council. We've talked about the aviation days, mentorship, but now you're with Clay Lacey. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis as an aircraft manager?
Yes, ma'am. So my title is aircraft manager, but my role itself is a bit more than that. I wear a few hats for us. So through my title, I do manage a few of our aircraft, and so I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations of a few of our aircraft, and acting essentially as the quarterback for them, making sure that all of the supporting departments are all moving in one accord for those aircraft. And but coinciding with that, I also lead our business development on the East Coast. And so my role is very much sales and business development as well. Clay Lacey historically has been a West Coast-based operation, but we established a East Coast operations center about 3 years ago. And we actually have an FBO that will be completed in Oxford, Connecticut in December. And so a large part of my role is helping us get our footprint on the East Coast, driving traffic into our soon-to-come FBO. And so managing that, our sales, business development, new business kind of duties on the East Coast, along with managing my aircraft. But then I have some other kind of ambiguous duties internally as well. So Clay Lacey is actually, we just launched our internal young professionals group. And so I help kind of lead that initiative, and then there's a lot of stuff that I happen to get myself involved in. I don't let projects kind of go undone.
Anytime you're volunteer and it's like, hey, I have some time to do extra work, I'm sure they'll find something for you.
Well, I have the problem of just being too open with my opinions.
That's not a problem. No, I'm sure that they value that very much. I'm sure any employee should. Us also. Well, let me switch over a little bit less on the business side and more toward the personal side. And I'll just ask you some fun questions here. So how about, are you reading any books right now? Any favorite book or something that you want to tell you?
I am currently reading a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water, A Guide to Finding Spiritual Fulfillment in Everyday Life. I know, so that's a long title, but one of my managers recommended to me. I tend to be a pretty philosophical person, just kind of in general. And so that book in particular kind of breaks down different aspects of life, from family to friends to leisure to exercise, and it's kind of, and just gives different philosophical stances on it from the start of time. So I really appreciate I got to kind of scratch my itch there. And as a weekly practice, I read from a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And it's my favorite book of all time. It's by Og. And it's funny. My mom got me the book years ago for Christmas, but I didn't read it until like 2 years after the fact. I wished, I don't know, I had an epiphany. I was like, I need to read something. And I saw this book on my bookshelf, and it looked easy enough to read. It was less than 100 pages. And I was like, you know what? Let's start the year off with this book. And I happened to read it as I was transitioning from a sales operations role into being a sales director at an aircraft broker. And so it was perfect timing. It was very serendipitous for where I was in life. But it taught me values that I practice daily today. And as a part of my morning routine, I write down these 10 principles that the book teaches you. And it's kind of like it's almost like a daily devotional to myself. I recite these values and principles to myself. And even for someone who doesn't work in a sales capacity, the greatest salesman in the world just teaches you a lot of really good, just kind of core principles to have, ways to treat people, how you should see every day, and the appreciation that you should have for life.
That sounds like a great book. I feel like I've heard of it, but I definitely have not read it. The 10 principles, you mentioned 10 principles, so that's part of your morning routine and came from that book.
Yeah, came from that book. Reading Atomic Habits also made me very intentional with how I spend my time, especially developing a morning routine. And so I am one of those crazy people who wakes up at 5 a.m. in the morning, but I do so that I can go throughout my morning routine at my own pace. Nothing's rushed, because there's nothing I hate more in the morning than being rushed. And so I probably could wake up at 6 to still do this, but having that extra hour allows me to do everything at my pace. But wake up at 5 o'clock, go to the gym, have a decent workout, go home, have a relaxing shower. The shower ends in with not necessarily a cold plunge, but with a cold shower. So doing that, I meditate every morning. I started doing that this year. Started incorporating that this year, and honestly, something that I look forward to every day now. I get to just kind of like have 10 minutes of just like silence, and it's like washing your brain. It's awesome. And then I recite my daily principles to myself. I do about 10 minutes. Well, I do at least 10 minutes of reading, and then I'll journal as well. And so all of that takes about 2 hours. Yeah. Breakfast is involved and stuff, and watering my cactuses, but I travel too much for any other plant that requires any more maintenance than that. But I really like having that peaceful time to yourself before working in sales, working in, supporting aircraft. As soon as your day starts, it just doesn't stop. It's constant interaction with people and technology. And so having 2 hours of, personal time it's provided a lot of structure into my life.
That's great. I love that. I have read that book, Miracle Morning, and it has talked so little bit about some aspects in that as well, right? And really like that. And got in there some minutes.
Mm-hmm.
How about when you're looking out there and you're looking at different businesses out there that you may like or don't like, what quality or two of those businesses means that they're doing business right? Like, what, in your opinion, what does a business look like when they're doing it right?
I would say, and it's transparency is it both internally and externally is something that I have really grown to appreciate. It's one of the reasons why I joined the company I'm with now. When a company can be fully transparent with their clients in regards to, what it may cost to operate their aircraft, or if certain, trips are even feasible, what kind of charter rate you're going to get, on your aircraft, companies that can be fully transparent with their end users. I think it's something that makes certain companies stand out, but potentially even more so when companies can be fully transparent internally. I work for a very horizontal company, and at any given moment, I can call my CEO and we can have a conversation and be honest with each other. And that goes across the board, regardless of department. We're a very transparent company internally. Obviously some stuff has to be kept privy, and there are non-disclosure agreements on certain things, as with every company. But if you're ever curious on kind of like what the strategic direction is for the company, or, why we made certain decisions, we're very open and honest with each other. And it creates a community where everyone kind of feels equal and involved and like a stakeholder in the company, because we're just very transparent with each other. And so something that I really appreciate, and I think it fosters just a really outstanding kind of company culture.
Great answer. Yeah. Well, Jordan, it's been super great speaking with you. Great ideas. I love the morning routine. Gosh, I should have asked you some more about selling the aircraft, because that probably is a huge pie. That was full of thing, and your whole just the way you came in from the rail to a roller coaster engineer, and now you're in the aviation. And it's so cool. If somebody else wanted me to talk to you some more about your whole process and your journey, where would they find you?
Yes. Well, one, let me first say, I'd come back any day. So if you want to do a part 2, please feel free to sign me up. Yeah, because I feel like we just barely scratched the surface of today's conversation. But for anyone else who can't wait for a part 2 and wants to get a hold of me, I'm very accessible via LinkedIn. It's probably my most accessible medium right now. I check it every day. I've got the app. So if you send me a connection or you send me a message, I will respond to you, whether you're a professional, whether you're a student, whether you're someone who's not even in the industry, just wants to learn a little bit more. That is the best way to get a hold of me. And outside of that, you can, I encourage anyone that's listening to want to follow the NBAA YoPro LinkedIn page, follow us on any of our social medias, to stay apprised of everything that we're doing out there. I consider myself extremely fortunate to help lead such an amazing group of individuals who are out there just changing lives and changing the industry. And I would not be where I'm at without them. So big thanks to them, and big thanks to your audience as well, man. Lindsay, thank you very much for inviting me today.
Yeah, well, I think too, they are lucky to have you leading them with all the experiences you've had. Probably a shout out to your mom too. Sounds like she's pretty awesome, and getting you steered in the right spot. Well, us and Jordan will definitely do part 2. Thank you again so much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes and check out our website for up and coming podcasts. This has been a production of the Business Aviation Collective, sponsored by LD Aviation.